Okay. Yeah. All right. So, yeah. Hello, everybody. Of course, if you don't know me, I'm Eric Hollick, and I'm part of the dynamic duo with my wife of Marriage Can Win. We're both coaches and authors. We do have a book out called Marriage Can Win. And Thomas is watching. Bring them on camera. Okay. Yeah. Okay. I don't know what does that mean? They receive an invite to join. Okay. There you go. Hey. Yeah. So again, I'm learning this thing here, where you can actually bring people on the camera. This is pretty cool. I like that. All this new technology, and I'm in the technology industry. But yeah, I got a couple questions because I've been talking with some family members, and single women has been the topic now. Of course, we like to deal with marriages, relationship, and people who are looking at marriage. But single women, I got a couple questions here. So why are there so many single women? And then I got a couple different areas. So single women who have never been married and looking for a man. That's another question right there. And I think it'll be a good topic for discussion. Why are there so many single women that've never been married and looking to be married or looking for a man? And then another one is, why are there so many single women in the church or in the body of Christ? Why are there so many, single women in the body of Christ? And then why are there so many single women in corporate America is another topic of discussion. And then finally, here's another topic. Why are there so many single women that have been divorced once and then multiple times, so second and third time? So it's a lot of that going on. They're either single, they've been married but divorced, and they're married and divorced multiple times. So what I like to do is get some feedback from you. Once this, you can actually add it to this comments here and give me your feedback. Why do you think that is so? Why there's so many single women? And you got so many different scenarios. You just got the single woman who's never been married. You got the single woman who's in church all the time, and they're continuing to grow older in age, but they have never been married. And then you got the single woman in corporate America. So you got the woman that's boss lady, the boss woman that she's thriving. She's very wealthy. She's independent. She can do, she can take care of herself. And then you got the single women who've been divorced multiple times. I know I hear a lot where they have a lot of a different, I wouldn't say demands, but requirements. Like that, do you make six figures? Do you own a home? Do you drive a BMW? Do you, do you have money in the bank account? So those are some of the questions. And I know for my little 2 cents. Well, what does a woman have to offer other than, when you're asking for all these things, money and all these things? Do you have the same to offer? I mean, is there more that you're offering? But I think that's just a good topic for discussion. And I just wanted to come on and throw that out there because I want to get some feedback from Facebook friends. And so do this for me. On the comment section, put your comments in there and give me your feedback about why there's so many single women out there. Never been married, single women in the church, single women in the corporate America, and then single women who has been divorced, not one or twice, but sometimes even 3 times. What's going on? Okay, and I want to hear from you. Okay, but and also for those who know me, hello to you, and thank you for joining me tonight and just spending a little time with me. For those who don't know me, my name is Eric Hollick, and I'm part of the dynamic duo with my wife, Dr. Sakisha Hollick. We are authors of Marriage Can Win. If you do, go to marriagescanwin.com. We have a lot of projects, a lot of events coming up. We do have a couples retreat next year in September the 14th through the 16th, and we actually have Black Friday special where you can get $100 off. So go to marriagescanwin.com and click on the Ultimate Power Couple Retreat. And if you haven't got a copy of our book, you can do so. We actually have a 10% off right now. And that's actually floating around on Facebook. But you can also get a copy of our book at our website, marriagescowin.com, or you can get it at amazon.com. And hello, Sheila, how are you doing? Eddie Sheffield, my homeboy, Rhonda, Anthony Thomas, Daniel James. Hello, everybody. Hello. I know you're having a great, what is this, Thursday evening. Everybody has had a great Thanksgiving. I'm sure everybody, probably overate and spent a lot of time with family. Yeah, I still have your copy of your book, man. Hey, Rhonda. Yeah, man, I tell you, I'm gonna have to get back up there in Atlanta, man. A lot of my friends up there. Keisha King, hello, Miss King. How are you doing? Good, good, good. Terrence Nelson. Oh, yes, it is a good topic tonight. So go ahead and put your the topic just for those who just joining. I was talking about because I was having a conversation. Oh, you need a copy? Go to you can go to Amazon, just search Marriage Can Win, or you can go to our website, marriagescanwin.com, and click on shop. You can buy from Barnes & Noble, Books A Million, or Amazon, but you can go to our website and buy a copy of our book, and it'll be shipped directly to you. Yes, Miss King, I'm doing great. I'm glad you're doing well. I'm glad you're doing well. But yeah, the topic tonight was, because I had this conversation over Thanksgiving break. I had some relatives over, and they brought up a good question. And and the question was, why are there so many single women out there? And I got like 4 different areas. There's why are there so many single women that have never been married, and they're looking to be married. And then you have so many single women in the church. And churches are full of women, more so than you see men. But the thing is, you don't see the men, and they're single. And then you have so many single women in corporate America, because now we got a lot of boss chicks, CEO chicks, that hey, I don't need no one. I'm independent. I can pay my own bills, and they got their Beamers and their Benzes, and so why are they still single? Is it that they have tough requirements? They're looking for something, that they feel that men are not on their level. These are some questions that have been brought up. And so, that's a good discussion topic. So put your, okay. Hello, Anthony, Mr. Earl. How you doing, Dr. Earl? I'm glad that you've joined me. And Mr. Hardy White, I'm glad that you joined me. I'm just throwing out a quick topic out here tonight about singles. And I was talking about the single women in corporate America, single women in the church, and then single women who are looking to be married. And then you have the single women who have been married not only once, twice, but even 3 or 4 times. I'm like, man, don't you think after the once or twice, maybe something would change? Y'all tell me, what do you think? Do you think it's a lack of education? A lack of mindset? Is a cultural thing? Is it different across cultures? Is it, the white race, the black race, the Spanish race? What is it? Is that a difference? Upbringing? What is it? Baggage? What do you think it is? Do you think it has something to do with just a lack of education or mindset? Is it that, I guess if you go to college and you want to become really good at something, is it that you go and you invest in your education? Like if you want to be a doctor or engineer, you actually go to college, you get some books, you start reading, you start getting someone to teach you. Oh, it's the men. Okay, Ruthie said it's the men. Oh, Patrick Hayes, how you doing, man? And Miss Williams, hello. Okay, a way to cover up their hurt. Wall building. Okay, yeah. So I think it has something to do with past experiences, whether they've been hurt before they, growing up, maybe had some traumatic experiences, or maybe they witnessed some traumatic experience with their family, their marriages, or maybe the lack of both parents in the household. That could be. And so Ruthie said it's the men. So the men need to be educated. That's what I'm hearing. Hello, Scott, my friend. How are you, sir? Yeah, just for those who just jumped on, I was just, throwing out some questions about single women. Single women who have never been married that are looking to be married. Single women in the church, single women in corporate America, and single women who've been divorced multiple times. Please don't get you started. Oh, Miss Ruthie. Well, I mean, I think that's a legitimate question because, Mr. Tate, hi, Lydell. I'm happy to see you on here. Yes, yes, yes. Oh, that's my Miss Barbara Adams. How are you doing? Yeah, we were talking about the single women. So, and so one young lady said that it's the men that need to be educated. The men should be educated. So, yeah, I do agree. Both men and women need to be educated. Men need to be educated in being a man, and then becoming a husband and becoming a father. They need to get out of that boyhood stage. Women too as well. But if we just go to the point where, like, we're talking about single women who are in corporate America, that's a good subject there, because a lot of times women have standards, I guess, because they've been hurt from the past of being, either what they were experiencing when they grew up watching their kids. Okay, men aren't pursuing women now. In this day, men want women to pursue them. Just your experience. Well, yeah, I guess, men are wanting women to pursue them. Well, yeah, could it be that men think that there's so many women out there that, that they should be, they say it's a shortage of good men. So the good men feel that the women need to be pursuing them. And I guess, so it's kind of like a seller's market for men, because it's a lack of, I guess that's what women say, that there's a lack of good men out there. So is it that there's a seller's market for men and it's a buyer's market for women? So women are looking for the best deal, or they're looking for a good deal, or any good deal. And men are like, well, hey, I got many choices. So why should I just settle for, the first thing that comes on? Is that what's going on? So I think that's a good, okay, let me see, what is it? Okay. Chelsea, okay, Patricia, welcome, Patricia. So for those who just joined, we're talking about single women, and I brought it out, the seller's market, yeah. So yeah, we're talking about single women who've never been married, looking for a man, single women who are in the church. There's so many single women in the church, and that's a topic on itself. So why is it so many? I mean, and then, there's so highly anointed women who are well versed into the Bible and then the Word, but they're still single. And then you got women in the corporate America. I think it's, that mentality that I'm independent, I don't need a man, and they have standards and they have requirements, that, you got to have a job, you can have 6-figure jobs, you need to be able to buy me this and buy me that. Is that the mentality? Single women who've been divorced multiple times, so, those are a lot of questions. I mean, that's what's brought up to me. And I think these are some good topics to discuss. But I'm not going to belay this time. I just wanted to get some feedback from you and say, what would y'all like to hear more about? What would you like to discuss? We can have a discussion on these topics, because I think it's a good deal. Men are saying, one thing and women are saying another. I want to hear from you guys. Give me some feedback on this topic of why single women, they say they can't find a good man, or they can't find a man. And men are saying, they're tired of, all the requirements and all the standards. So I need some feedback from you guys. But for those who know me, it seems like everybody on here that they know me in one way or another. Hello, Miss Daphne Mansell. And the Miss Nikki Robbins. Okay. Hello to you guys. Hoping you're all having a great evening. And Miss Nicole, hello, cousin. So I just wanted to jump on and just throw out that topic for discussion about single women. And get your feedback, because who knows, I may come out with another book on single women. I think I'm actually going to be coming out with a book on single women. But because you need to come and join me to our website, so because I think we've on to something here. But if you don't know me, most of you do. I'm Eric Hollick, and my wife is Dr. Sakisha Hollick, and we're both I call it the dynamic duo. We're authors of Marriage Can Win. And we're having some events actually next year. We're having a couples retreat, and it's not only just for couples. It's for couples who are looking to get married, and couples who've been together and they want to have a strong foundation and have a foundation to build the future together. And it's going to be next year, September 14th through the 16th here in Orlando at the Hyatt on International Drive. If you go to our website, marriagescanwin.com, you can take a look at the more information on that couples retreat. Also, if you want to get a copy of our book, you can get it at marriagescanwin.com. It's called Marriage Can Win. And the book, what we covered actually was, it's what we call the Great Divide. And that's typically what relationships, they typically fail because of one of these issues or all of these issues, which is communication, finance, and sex. One way or another, if it's bad communication or finance or lack of, and sex, which is, men can say lack of and women can say too much of, or is it the vice versa? It just depends. But we cover that in our book, The Communication, Finance, and Sex. We talk about how to have better communication and get a handle on your finance and have better sex, how to please your spouse. We even talk about some of the positions in there, some of the spots to work on. So your spouse is happy, because you don't want to be dating someone or looking to get married and you're kissing them on their neck and a year later they say, that just turns me off, So that's the communication part. You got to be able to talk to each other, and maybe that's why there's so many single women out there, because men are not talking the women's language and women are not talking the men's language. Seems like, especially in the body of Christ, seems like they need to get on one accord. If the men and women can get on one accord, then they can hear from heaven. They can hear from each other. But men on one accord and women on another accord. So maybe that's why there's so many single women in the body of Christ. And in corporate America, that's a whole nother scenario. And then the multiple marriages that have failed, that's a whole nother one. Let's see here. Jacqueline Smith, welcome. And Stephanie, oh, how you doing, Stephanie? Scott, what's Scott say? Social media is the topic for you. How that affects today and interaction. Yes, sir. Okay, Ruthie. Let's see here what she said. I never thought about my marriage. I never thought about my marriage, but I was married for a long time, and it takes two to make it work in a marriage, to be able to compromise in issues, communicate honestly, and understand the word. Okay, it says see more here. The word of God in your marriage and or faith, and acknowledge to pull you through. The flesh will get you both in trouble if not careful. No one is perfect. Exactly. Yeah, of course you need the word of God in your marriage. That should be your source. That should be your ultimate source and standard. But it's all about the educating piece, though. Still, don't you think you both need to be educated to be on the same wavelength? If one of you have an expectation when you're coming into marriage, and the other one comes into marriage and they have a different expectations, you're not on the same wavelength. There's a disconnect. One person is thinking that this is what should be, maybe one person is thinking that, women should be cooking dinner all the time. And the woman like, I ain't cooking dinner. I don't know how to cook, So that's where the communication piece comes in. Miss Everhart, how you doing? Hi, Stephanie. Charles, how are you doing? Tracy, how are you doing? I just, for those just joined, I was just wanted to get a discussion on a topic of single women. There are so many single women, and I had a conversation over Thanksgiving with my family. And Miss Overton, hello, how are you? And the discussion came up about single women. There's so many single women in the world today, and why there's so many single women. And then, single women, and I broke it down into some categories, like single women who have been married and looking for a mate, and then you have single women in the church, and then single women in corporate America, single women who've been divorced, not one, but multiple times. So why is that? I mean, give me some feedback, give me some comments. Because I think this is a real issue. And then I threw out some questions. Well, could it be cultural? Is it in the white race? Is it the same thought pattern in the black race, in the Spanish race, in the Italian race? I mean, is it across all racial lines, or is it more or less in pertaining to race? And so You know, that's what I wanted to hear from you guys. Yeah, Miss Al, well, I have been married 3 times, which is one of your topics. And I think pride versus humility has a lot to do with these issues. Yes, pride, because sometimes um, I agree with you, Miss Adams. Pride has a lot to do with it, and it may be because of the lack of knowledge, and it's on the man's side and on the women's side. Men be like, well, you know, they don't want to be, they don't want to think they're weak because they don't know something, how to become a good husband or a man, and because they never saw one before, they never saw a great relationship, so they don't even know what one looks like, or how to operate in a marriage. Why do you believe there's so many single women in the world, particularly in the church? Well, I mean, this is a conversation I had over Thanksgiving break by some parties in my family, and that's what they were saying. That they're ministers, and they said there's so many highly anointed women, but they're single. And she said and you know, in the ministry that she's come from, there's so many single women. I mean, there's hardly any married women. I mean, in the ministry that she was in. But I mean, I think in some of the churches we're in, there's a lot of women that come to church, and they come to church alone, and they're single. They're not married. Maybe they're dating, but not necessarily married. But that's the reason why I brought the topic up, because it was brought up to me. That, you know, they're female. They say, hey, there's so many single women. Why don't you guys talk more about single women and why are they having issues? And you know, because, you know, there are a lot of anointed women, and when we talk about the church, there are a lot of anointed women, but they're so anointed, they're anointed alone. They don't have a mate. They're not married, you know. And then when you talk about corporate America, that's another story. That's because corporate America is where you have women who are excelling in their careers, and they're independent, and then they have their standards and requirements before they even think about dating a man, you know, because that's another topic. Then you got women who've been married, divorced multiple times. Okay, Terrence says, I know it's possible sometimes our saved single ladies in church can beat you up with scripture while you as men as just trying to get to know them. Exactly. Sometimes I guess, but you know what? That may be because of past hurt or trauma that they had, either growing up or in past relationships. Yeah, they want to be, they're so spiritually minded. They can't come out of that spiritual realm back to the carnal or to themselves to just have a conversation with a man to get to know him and him to get to know her. So yeah, that is a possibility. They so saved, they too saved for men, you know. And it's all about, like, you know, hey, Miss Selena, how are you doing tonight? Yeah, topic tonight is about single women. Why are there so many single women in the church, corporate America, and you know, in America? Some women have been divorced not once but multiple times. But yeah, that is a good perspective. There is that women are so saved that they're too saved for men. So, and then one young lady said that it's the men that the problem is. Maybe they're not educated enough, or, you know, about relationships, not education on the educational level, but about relationships, how to have a relationship. Is that what y'all think? Well, I mean, okay, well, here's a question. What is a good relationship? What does it consist of? And do you have an example of a great relationship? And this is not even being married, because I mean, that's another topic. What is a good marriage? And what is an example of one? Yes, but men do it to save for a movie. Yes, but men do it to save for a movie. Elaborate on that, Ms. King. Eric, do you have at least 2 reasons in your professional opinion why this is occurring? Okay, is this for, when you're asking Stephanie, is this for women in the church or corporate America? If you want my opinion, I think I'll start with the church. For the Eric, yeah, for the church, I think it is maybe, from the discussion I had, is maybe it's that women don't necessarily make themselves approachable, and because they are so, battery getting low. Okay, in the church, yeah. So women maybe don't make themselves some approachable, they're so spiritually minded. The men, you know, don't necessarily feel that they can approach them, because then if they do, women kind of maybe shun them off. Like, okay, you just, you know, this isn't the church, you know, or something. I mean, you know, that I think is just an opinion. You won't have some men with titles won't work. Attend the movie. Oh, okay. So, and for your point, Keisha, you're saying that women in the church, I mean, men in the church, maybe they have a title like minister or pastor. Yeah, I think they take it they're too spiritually minded. And how you know that saying, too heavily minded, do no earthly good. Men that have titles that they don't want to go to a movie. Yeah, that's where you got to break that barrier down. You can be spiritually minded. You can have a title, you can be a pastor, bishop, or whatever. But when it comes to you're walking in your office. So if you're walking in the office of the fivefold ministry, yeah, that's an office that you walk in. You do. That's like you go to work, and when you come home from work, you back home. And when you have time with your spouse, your spouse becomes the priority. You're no longer in your office. So now you have to do some things. You have to establish your relationship, your communication, your finance, and your sex with your spouse. Or if you're dating, you need to establish that communication with that person you're dating. So you need to have fun and go out and do things. Go out to dinner, go out to the movies, go out and listen to some jazz, go to a comedy club, you know. So because you leave the office, you're away from the office. So we talk about church. In the office, you can be a minister, you can be a pastor, a prophet, evangelist, or whatever you may be, but that's the office you work in, you know. But when you come down and you're now back to your relationship, you're not operating as a pastor or apostle when you're now home or you're dating your spouse or your spouse to be. You have to leave that office title at the office. You know, I can be a vice president of a corporation, and during the day I'm dictating and delegating. When I come home, now I got to come into husband mode. I got to come into, you know, man mode. Okay. Hello, Miss Walker. Hello. Yeah, right on. No saved men do not do none of that. Well, see, that's the problem. I think they're so hello, Tina. Hello, Sylvester. Hello, Roland. Yeah, to answer your question, Keith, to respond to your saved men, they're so saved and probably wrapped up in tradition that they need to break out of that mentality. They so used to, hello, yeah, Mary, Miss Mary, we're talking about single women, why they're so many, because the topic came up over Thanksgiving break. You know, one of my family members asked me, because we have the relationship business, they said, why are there so many single women? And they know a lot of highly anointed women in the church, but they're still single. Hello, Tina. Yeah, hello, Tiffany, Miss Sanders. And so we were talking, and I had some questions here. I was addressing that about the men, because some men, you know, they're so caught up in titles and the anointing in church. When it comes down to their spouse or the person they're dating, they can't leave or take off that fivefold ministry office when they're with their spouse or the person they're dating. And so, yeah, they got to get out of that traditional thinking that they got to be super spiritual all the time, up in the heavenlies all the time, even when they're with their spouse or with the person they're dating. You got to come back down, and now the priority is that person that you're dating or that person that is your wife. You know, they are your priority. You know, when you're in the office, it's like now I was using an example. If I'm a vice president, when I'm at work, I'm delegating authority and delegating tasks to everybody, and I have to, you know, I'm always doing and working. You know, but when I come home, I'm no longer vice president. I'm either husband, or if I'm dating, I'm the man, and I'm dating this woman. Or if I'm the husband, I'm pleasing my wife, and so I have to take that vice president, that corporate job, and that corporate role, and leave it at corporate America. Or if I'm in church, or I'm the pastor or something, I have to leave that at church. Okay, where is it written that women have to have a mate or need to be in a relationship? Maybe they are single because they don't want to settling for any man, or the man aren't finished playing around. Example, let's see here. Oh, hang on. Good question, Ms. Everhart. And I'm just trying to read all your Okay, a good relationship should be based on good communication, trust, funds, spiritual, sexuality, emotionally, and honest. And I agree with you on that. That's exactly, and I agree with you. That's why our book is about. It's about what we call the great divide in relationships and marriage: communication, finance, and sex. And a lot of people, the thing is, to answer your question, Ms. Everhart, is that a lot of men and women don't really even know what it means to have good communication, or be able to handle their finances, or maybe how to please their spouse sexually, because they're only thinking about themselves. If they have an orgasm, they're good, and the other person's not, or maybe they're kissing them in the ear sexually, and they thinking they're arousing them, and years later they come to find out it irritates them. But yes, so I think the educational piece, both men and women need to get educated on what it means to have a great relationship, or a great marriage. And so that's to answer your question, Ms. Emhart. Yeah, I mean, if you choose to be single, that's fine. That's your choice. But there's so many women from our conversation over Thanksgiving, some women are looking not to be single, they want to be married. They're looking to share their life with someone. They don't want to be alone all the time. And then they're like, well, why is it that they're alone? And we looked at, there's single women in the church. There's single women in corporate America. And there are single women who've been married not only once, twice, but multiple times. And so that was the conversation we had over Thanksgiving. And I want to bring up that topic of discussion. And get some feedback from people, because I was getting one perspective from one young lady, and so I was like, well, let me find out. Let's see here. Okay, questions are popping up here. Hello, Miss Myers. Hello, cousin Cox. Alicia Davis, how are you doing? Hello. We're talking about single women tonight. For those who just joined on real quick, we're talking about single women. And we're talking about why are they single? Because we have so many that's never been married, looking to be married. You have single women in the church, single women in corporate America, and single women who've been married not once, but twice and multiple times. And I see a question out there. Why is it so hard for a man to stay with only one woman? Good question. Good question. I think it has something to do with the upbringing is one thing. And you could also say, good evening, Miss Jones. Good evening. And one question is, to answer that question about why men are only having, they can't stick with one woman. One is that maybe there's so many out there. There's like, I heard a response that a man said, there's so many choices to choose from on the menu, and when you're single, you can look on the menu and there's so many good options up there, like, barbecue sandwich, turkey sandwich, chicken sandwich, and there's steak, and there's so many choices. They don't know what that's just what I heard. Now, it ain't coming from me. That was a response from a man. But I think it's a lack of morals, and the upbringing. If you're not taught the value of a relationship, the value of a marriage, then you won't have that in your mind. If you don't have that stability or that teaching and that upbringing, I think that has a lot to do with why men can't just stay with one woman. That's a whole topic on itself. Let me see here. Pressure from society. Exactly. There's a lot of pressure. When you watch television, all you see is so much promiscuity on television. So it is a lot of pressure in society, and it's in your head. What you're seeing all the time is Playboy. And I always use Boomerang, with Eddie Murphy and Halle Berry and I forget the other young lady. But, it's that Playboy mentality, And here's another question, because somewhere down the line, we got lost on how to be a true man. That's true. And that's because of the lack of upbringing. A lack of upbringing, a lack of training, when growing up. And it's true, we men need to be taught. But I heard earlier was pride, because men don't want to say, well, I really don't know how to communicate. I really don't know how to handle my finances. I really don't, I really don't know how to have great sex that my spouse is really pleased. Or maybe they concentrate so much on the sex part, then they don't have any communication. So outside of the sex part, that's all they know. You know. Hello, Charlene. How you doing, cuz? Never have had a sex. Many never have seen a successful marriage. Yes, Miss Myers, that is great. I mean, now me growing up, I guess the only thing I could say is I'm watching the Cosby Show. You know, so for me, the Cosby Show, that was like a healthy black upper middle class family, and that looked like a healthy relationship, a healthy marriage. But you know, nowadays, I guess what show that we watch? I guess the next best thing is now what I call the modern day Cosby is Blackish. I don't know if y'all watched it, but that's with Anthony Anderson and Tracy Ross Ellis. That's one show that I think is a pretty healthy family. But yeah, it's just you don't have any examples. And I'm gonna throw this question out to you guys. What do you consider a healthy relationship? Or an example of a healthy relationship? What do you consider a healthy marriage? Or what do you have an example of a healthy marriage? Put your comments in there because I need to know. So because that's another good topic of discussion. Okay, here we have some hello, Angelique, how are you doing? Terrence is saying, but ladies, don't turn around and yell at us. I don't need to open my door, gets confusion. Oh yes, so it's like, so what he's saying is like men will try to be courteous and I forget the word right now, but they want to show they respect women, opening the doors and stuff. And he's saying, and they're saying, you don't have to open my door. So I think that comes from Terrence. Is some past hurt. The women have some baggage that they're bringing into that relationship, whether they're dating or and they're upset, they're mad, they're angry, and they feel like that he ain't no good. In the back of their mind, he ain't no good. He's just gonna mistreat me. So I think it's that baggage. That's why they're kind of angry and they're like, you don't have to open my door, type thing. Miss Myers says fear. It won't work, and no associates that encourage or celebrate marriage. Yeah, fear of being hurt again, fear of going through the same trauma, and the trauma not necessarily from a past relationship, but also could be from an upbringing. There's so many. I mean, I guarantee you, from almost everybody, chivalry. You're right, Terrence, chivalry. I guarantee everybody who's been on this Facebook Live has had some kind of trauma, whether they were growing up or in relationships, some kind of trauma. Trauma can be domestic abuse, sexual abuse. They've been cheated on. They've been hurt. They saw some hurt in their family, the mother and father, their relationship. They don't see a healthy relationship growing up, or they had multiple traumatic experience in their relationships or marriages, and so that sticks with you, and that carries on to any future relationships or in your current relationship. So that's something that you need to target, is what's going on, what's causing these issues. And guess what, guys? I have my other part of my dynamic duo that just stepped into the room. I want to introduce you guys to none other but my dynamic duo. What are
you doing?
Dr. Sakisha Hylick. Say hello to everybody.
Hi, how are you?
We've been having a great discussion, because of Thanksgiving. I came on, just give me 1 second, everybody. And I asked the question, I said, why are there so many single women? I kind of broke it down into categories, like single women who have never been married but looking, single women in the church, single women in corporate America, and then single women who've been divorced once or multiple times. So now you got the women's perspective. I've been talking a lot.
Oh, just put me in the hot seat.
And here's
what's going on.
Okay, Miss Myers says.
Oh, Corliss, how are you?
So she said I had a chance to experience. Wait, baby. I was trying to read it to you. When you add that, you add them to the thing.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Okay. It says I had a chance to experience one healthy marriage. It planted a seed, and I knew it was possible. I challenge those of us who are married, be visible to show the glory of God.
Amen.
Marriage, we are on assignment.
That's
yes,
true.
we are. Yes, we are.
Awesome. Hi, Tiffany. Hi, Ruthie. I'm so sorry. I'm just kind of walking in. I'm just getting home. And her voice was coming from the office. So I figured I'd just kind of pop in and see what's going on.
Yes. So as I told you earlier, for those who, most of you know us, most, and some maybe, are new friends on Facebook, but I'm part of the dynamic duo of Marriage Can Win. We authored a book called Marriage Can Win. And in this book, we covered what we call the Great Divide. And we've been discussing a lot of that on tonight's Facebook Live, where communication, finance, and sex, which is typically what causes relationships and marriages to fail. And oh, hello, Miss White, how are you? And so I've got a lot of questions from some of the people on the Facebook Live.
Okay.
And Mr. Townsend, hey, how you doing?
Hey.
And so I was answering some of the questions.
Oh, okay.
And,
All right.
And a lot of it was like, one was pride, that maybe there's pride that causes some issues.
That's definitely.
And then one was because a lack of communication or education.
Okay.
And it was like, why do women they show anger? Like, even if you're trying to show, Mr. Nelson was saying, why is it that women they fuss at you? Like, if you open the door for them, like, you don't have to open my door for me. Some of the reasons why that happens.
Well, some of that can be attributed to past baggage, things that
Exactly.
they haven't
That's
been
what we
able
were
to
talking
release.
about.
So you carry that from one relationship to another. And unfortunately, the new person winds up kind of getting some of the backlash from the old person. So I'm excited. I mean, I don't want to say I'm excited, but that's definitely one of the causes. But we just have to be mindful that when Eric and I had just gotten together, I was just coming out of a bad relationship, so to speak. That's a whole long story. I'm not going to go into that here. That's definitely for another time. And had it not been for God, I would have walked away from Eric because I was scorned. I was frustrated. I was angry. I was bitter, resentful, and he had absolutely nothing to do with it. So, but that's just something, a way to encourage other women that when you're going from one relationship into another, make sure that you process the baggage. A lot of times people will go, they want to get into another relationship because you don't want to deal with the past hurt, but that hurt still exists. You can bury it down, cover it up all nice and neat, but eventually it comes to the surface. So we've got to learn to deal with the issues and not to hold our current partners responsible for something that's happened in the past.
Exactly. And I agree with you.
Yeah.
Totally. And yeah, so yeah, Terrence, once my wifey walked in the room, I just, that bubbles up, man. I mean, that's why, you know what? We're actually going to be celebrating August the 14th, 2018, 20 years of being married.
Yeah.
And we've known each other for 24 years, met in the parking lot of Gaither Gym and Tallahassee, Florida A&M University. Men and women don't want to be vulnerable and try to protect themselves. They don't want to feel they owe a man.
And while that's true, they don't want to be vulnerable, but how do you really get to know someone else until you start to open up to them? I mean, you don't want to feel like there is that wall or that hedge of protection that we begin to develop or that we begin to form as a means of protecting ourselves. But that same wall that you're building up as a means of a hedge of protection, it's trying to protect you, but it's also keeping out the right person. So that's kind of like a double-edged sword. You want to protect yourself, but then you're also preventing yourself from or allowing the other person access to you. So, and that person that's coming to you, they're now having to tear down that wall. And it's extra work and added work for them that they didn't even, it's not their fault. Now, someone that really loves you, they're going to work with you, but there is a process. So that's why I encourage women to make sure that you're, oh, wow, I'll get a charger, that you work through past issues and challenges. Don't be afraid to connect with others and reach out for help, because there's so many other women that have been where you're currently standing. They walked a mile in your shoes, and that they're able to give you the tools and strategies so that you may not feel as vulnerable. Sometimes you just have to operate in wisdom and you start to open up little by little. But it's not fair for me to hold Eric accountable for something somebody else did. Eric was a totally different person, had a totally different, he was the one for me. The other person wasn't. So be mindful. How are you going to be able to recognize the real if you don't encounter some of the fake? So now you'll be able to recognize, no, that's not the one. But I'm not going to, take everyone that I meet, say, oh no, they are wrong because they did this like person A, B, or C. But just be mindful. Use wisdom.
Well, it was a classic example with us.
Layers, yeah.
A classic example with us how we met, because Keisha, she said she had a bad relationship before she met me, and that day God told her to be nice to everybody that you meet instead of just blowing them off. And tell them what you heard.
I'm just saying, I was just at that point where I was so angry and frustrated. I had built up a wall, a hedge of protection, such that I wouldn't be hurt anymore. So that's why I understand and I can identify with what Corliss is saying, because I'd been hurt, long story short, I had been in an abusive relationship. I left South Carolina, came to Florida, found myself in a relationship where the person just, they were just kind of out there, dating all kinds of people, me and my roommate, all kinds of things going on. And, I was just at the point where I said, I'm done. I'm just done. I was frustrated beyond belief, aggravated, irritated, all of the above. So I had that huge wall of protection. Mm-hmm. And God knew how I was. He knew how mean I could be, how nasty I could be when I was mad. So that's why God had to speak to me that morning and say, be nice to everyone you meet today. Because God knows me. I would have blown Eric off, told him where to go, how to get there, and everything. Yep. And that could have been the one thing that caused us to say, hey, he probably been like, you know what? She got too many issues. I'm gonna leave her alone.
Yeah. So I backed up, and I was leaving. I was coming from the library. If some of you may know the story, and I looked over and I saw this girl, this big butt, and this pretty smile, and I was like, whoa. So I backed up in. And I said, hey, how you doing? Now she could have said.
And what was going through my mind was, boy, please. Excuse me, like, that's just how it was. It was 24 years ago. I was just like, I didn't even want to be bothered. It's just like, keep going. And then I heard it again, be nice to everyone you meet today.
Hey, so Paul, what's up?
Then I was like, okay. So I kind of took a step back and said, hi, how are you doing? And that opened up the dialogue. Yep. Something simple. God gives you instructions. A lot of times we're always saying, well, God, where are you? Or, you're not speaking to me. God's always speaking, but are we always listening? And not only listening, are we obeying what he's telling us to do? Because sometimes he will tell you to do stuff. It doesn't feel comfortable. You don't feel like doing it. You don't want to do it. It puts you outside of your comfort zone. But guess what? It's in your best interest.
Tracy.
Hi, Tracy. How are you? So, that's a synopsis, like a quick snippet of how we connected. But just imagine if I had not been obedient, if I would have been just focusing on my flesh and been like, look, focusing on the baggage, the trauma, the pride, and been like, you know what, I'm not doing this. I'm not dealing with him.
All this 24 years later, 2 kids later.
Yeah, I would have missed out on all of this.
Yeah. But for those who just joined us, I just had a conversation over Thanksgiving break, and it was a question posed to me about, why there's so many single women out there and they're looking for men, and so I broke it down into categories. So many single women who've never been married and they're looking to be married. Then you have single women in the church, so highly anointed but still single. Mm-hmm. Then you got single women in corporate America, they the boss chick, and then you got single women who've been married once but twice and many times. And so that was the question that was posed to me, and I was like, that's a good question. I said, I need to get some feedback from you guys. And that's why I'm on here. And actually earlier, if you watch the playback, I started this without my wife because she was visiting her mom in the hospital. And so I just started this just to do a quick one, and I got all these questions, and it was getting good.
I can't believe it.
It was getting good. Hi, Stevie. And so it was getting good. So that's why we still on it. And then my wife surprised me. She came home and I was like, oh, wow. And Terrence said, ooh, your face lit up. I said, yeah, because this is my baby. So, we were talking about why are women why are they still single? you
Okay.
know?
But I mean, like this is different strokes for different folks, but I think it is a blessing when you open up and give a man's perspective. Because I know for women, we have our own take on how things should be done, why things
Right.
are the way they are.
They got requirements and standards. And
yeah, but then we also have to be mindful that our standards may not be, or what we have in mind for a mate may not be who God has for us.
okay, now I got a question. Because you have mentioned, and we talked about, let's use a different scenario so we won't hurt the innocent. So there's this woman that's working, let's say she's working in the grocery store, right? And maybe she's a cashier. And she says, well, you know what? If you want to talk to me, you got to have some money. You got to be able to take care of me. You got to drive a Benz. You got to make 6 figures. You got to do all this. Now, what's your thought on that? Now, you know.
I mean, my thing is, though, if you listen, though, what she's saying is just what the person has to have. You know, that's something that can come and go. Well, let's talk about the person's character. You know, how do they treat you?
Now, she's single, and she's saying she got to have all this, but she works at a grocery store. She's a cashier, and she says she want a man that's 6 figures, driving a Benz, and...
Well, you know what? You got to have a conversation, because does that person have a plan? Because that job that they're working at can just be a part of their plans for them to get to where they want to ultimately be.
But does the man have to have 6 figures and driving a Benz, even though well, I mean, what is she bringing to the table? She want him to bring all she want him to buy the table, bring the table, the house and everything. And what is she bringing to the table?
Okay, well, now I see your point, but let's just make sure that a lot of times people, when they're thinking marriage, they're just thinking about the financial aspect of it. Money comes and goes. You will experience ups and downs in your marriages in terms of finances, communication, and you got to. Can she come to the table with that? That's a really good question, Tracy. And that's the thing. What is she bringing to the table? But why is it only focused on what the person has? Is it that she came from a past where there was so much lack in her house, she just wants to be on the other side of the fence, so to speak? I mean, that's a conversation I would honestly have to have with her to find out where's this coming from, because a lot of it, that sounds like some baggage from before that needs to be dealt with. And a lot of people are coming and thinking this is just a way for me to be set up financially, but a marriage is so much more than that. You know, when you have people that are planning for a wedding for a day rather than a marriage.
If she working as a cashier, now let's turn this around. So now she is vice president of Acme Corporation. Oh, and I saw your questions, Aunt Marion. I mean, yeah, and that's great. You are correct. Communication, forgiveness, releasing past hurt. Yeah. That is key. That's the forgiveness piece. Yes, and what she can bring to the table. But here, for those of you who just joined, we're talking about why our women are single. But anyway, so we also talked about a woman that's a cashier, and she said she needs to have a man that has 6 figures and can do so much for her. But now let's turn the table. The woman she's making 6 figures. She's a vice president. She has a BMW. She has her own townhouse. She got all her bills paid. She got plenty of money in the bank. Okay. Now, should she have certain standards and requirements before she even entertain a date?
What do you mean by certain standards and requirements? Meaning that she's saying that
he got to have 6 figures. He got to be
it's not that he has
director
to have,
or vice president. He got to be,
You know what? Once they're mature, they quickly learn those positions come and go. How does that person treat you? What are their aspirations? What is their plan? What do they plan to do? Because sometimes you meet people in the midst of the temporary situation, but they have a plan to get to a next level. So automatically disqualifying somebody just because their income isn't at a certain level, to me, that's superficial. Right. That's superficial. Now, you worked hard and you've gotten to where you want to be. This particular person can be on the way to where they want to be, or they may feel comfortable at this level. So that's just something, those are types of conversations you have to have, and get to know somebody before you automatically disqualify somebody. But I mean, they're going to be certain.
Now, that thought pattern, more than likely that came from some past trauma or hurt. And that's why she feels like she don't want to, maybe she feel like the man or relationship she had in the past, she had to take care of him, or he sponged off of her. You think it comes from from that past drama?
Well, I mean, that could be the case, but you can also have boundaries in place. You can't, somebody will use you as long as you allow them to, but once you set those boundaries in place, no, you don't have to take care of them, but find out what's their plan. Go on a date. That's not saying you're marrying them. You go on a date, get to know them. If it's good and it's gonna, and you feel some chemistry and somebody you can get to know and grow with, fine. If not, oh well. You know, it's just the moment you see somebody, it's not got to be, oh, is this the person I'm going to marry? No. Sometimes that person is simply your assignment. You get to know them. You might be able to speak words of encouragement to their life. You don't know what their actual role is going to be in your life until you go to get to know them. When we met, it was, you know, we went out on a date, like on Valentine's Day, and we got to know one another. My thought pattern in regards to what you were going to do in life and things it's totally different from what you're doing now.
Right, exactly. Now, for those who just joined us, we're talking about single women.
Yes.
Why are they single? And welcome. I saw Jannard and Miss Gloria, my home team, and Quincy and Eddie Crenshaw. Welcome. We're talking about single women. Why? Because over Thanksgiving break, I had a conversation with my family, and they brought the questions up. They said, "Well, why are there so many single women?" And you know, especially in church. And I broke it down to the 4 different areas.
That's true.
Single women that never been married and looking, and then you got single women in the church that are highly anointed. Maybe they're in the fivefold ministry. Then you got single women in corporate America, boss chick, and then you got single women who've been married not once but multiple times. Okay. Why so?
Okay.
So of us reach for what we aren't prepared for.
Yeah,
exactly.
You do have to be prepared. And I had someone ask us this question when we were on their radio show not too long ago, and they were talking about there was this huge wedding that just took place. Yeah. And please forgive me, I can't remember the names of the people, but she was describing the situation. I've seen a little bit of the advertisement. Somebody with a K in the name, please forgive me, like a Quasher or something like that. And they had a wedding, and it was like a $1 million wedding or something about the girl walking on diamonds or something like that. Now, don't get me wrong, I don't begrudge them at all. If you have that kind of money to spend and that's what you want to do, fine. But make sure your finances are in order. Make sure that you prepared for a marriage and not just a wedding for a day. And there's nothing wrong. Listen, some women are independent like myself, and I used to tell men all the time, I don't need you, but as I grow older, I do need and want a man. That's what God did.
Exactly. I'm gonna have to get something to charge this, but exactly, yes. I think I got.
But and LaShonda, I understand what you're saying. I was one where I felt I was like always independent. I don't need you. But the fact is, you know, this is my husband. There are certain things that I can do for myself, but he's here. He's capable of doing it. Why not let him do that? You know, a man is in the relationship. He wants to feel needed. He wants to feel appreciated. If we're constantly telling him, oh, I can do this by myself. Oh, I don't need you. Well, guess what? He's going to bounce because they're like, you don't need me. So why should I stay here? Why should I be somewhere where I'm not wanted, not appreciated, and not needed?
Exactly. So who
wants to be in a relationship with somebody where they feel they're not needed? So
yeah, you can be independent, of course, you know, because I want my daughter to be, I want her to be able to take care of herself. But really, what I'm trying to train my daughter up to do is to bring something to the table. Yeah. To be intelligent, to be smart, to also be in her profession. Because when you grow and you find that someone that is for you, that God has built and created for you, when you get together, and let me just, I think if it starts to crash, I'll have to. You can sit in the seat.
Don't worry about it. Oh, okay.
So yeah, when you come together, it's basically like preparation. You're preparing yourself for the person that's going to complete you. But like for my daughter, go ahead.
But be mindful though, when you go into a relationship, it's not 2 halves make a whole. 2 whole people are coming together, and that's going to be the main thing. 2 whole people are coming together. So that's why a lot of times people are saying, oh, I need this person completely. No, you need to be complete and whole yourself. The 2 of you, you know, is 2 whole people coming together. So that's just something to be mindful of.
So yeah, so just ask God to prepare you for that man that is made for you. So don't like we talked about earlier. My wife was she was pre-med, you know, and if she said, you know, when I backed up and she found out I was in computers, right? And she said, you know, you don't make six figures, you ain't gonna do nothing when you graduate. You're gonna want to make so much money. You can't do that for me. We wouldn't be here now, you know. But you can't, you know, you can't just say because if they don't have something, you know, because, you know, you're in preparation and maybe you're further along in your career than that other person that you meet. You got to be able to be a help meet for them, vice versa. Yeah. And I saw a couple things here. Let's see here. Oh yeah, hey cuz. Amen, LaShonda. God made women so that man would not be alone. God knew how messed up we as men could get, so he wanted us to have a good woman to keep us men grounded. Now let's think about it. We have two different, if we are a team, right? When we come together, we become one. But if we're a team, if I'm very good in vision, and my wife is very good in implementing that vision, and she can be very creative in implementation. Together, we can accomplish a whole lot more than if we were divided. Because I can only do one side of the thing. She can only do one side of the thing. Without each other, we can't complete and be very successful. But we bring both of our skill sets together as a team, we can accomplish a whole lot.
When I'm looking at Jannard's comment, says that he's single and he's 27 and that you're looking for a wife, which is awesome. And then awesome during this time while you're looking for a wife, or you're preparing yourself, learning what it means to be a husband, learn what the roles and responsibility of a husband are, so that when you find a wife, you know, they say a man who finds a wife, he who finds a wife finds a good thing and obtains the favor of the Lord. But just be mindful. How do you know when you find her?
Oh yeah.
You'll know. You will. It's
something. Let me give you an example with me and my wife. I'm gonna give you an example. Then I'm gonna answer your question too. When I met Sakisha, I was in college at a historically black university, Florida A&M University. So many beautiful women, and I was just partaking of them. But when I met her, I cut them all off. And my wife was like, she called me at like 12 o'clock at night. And she said, what you doing? I said, nothing. What you doing? She's like, nothing. You want to come over? I was like, sure. And she's like, man, his girlfriend must be kind of dumb or something. I call him. He just comes right over. So she figured I had girlfriends. I had cut them all off. And I was only dating her. And she didn't think about it. She didn't know. And I was like, I cut them all off. She was all about me because it was just something about her that was sincere. She seemed very sincere. She seemed real. She didn't seem like she was up for games. And of course, when you're dating, especially at a historically black university, everybody's up for games and stuff. But she wasn't about games. She was real. She was sincere. And I like that about her. And that's what happened. I mean, 24 years later, here we are, you see. But, Jannard, this is the time when you work on being the best you. Yeah. See, because here I put it in stages. We as men, we got to get out of the boyhood stage. We gotta learn how to become manhood stage, and then from manhood we got to go to fatherhood. I mean, not fatherhood, husbandhood, and then fatherhood. Preferably. But we got to learn how to become a man. We got to learn how to become a husband. We got to learn how to become a father. I didn't know. I was like on the job training with my wife. You know, and especially when we had our first baby, I didn't know how to be a father. I had to learn how to change diapers. I had to learn how to do the dishes. My wife would be so upset when she came home and I kept the baby, right? And there would be diapers all over the place. The house was a mess. And I mean, you know, I changed the diapers, but it was diapers all over the place. All over the floor. I had to learn of course I had to learn how to change diapers. I had to learn how to keep the house clean, to do the dishes. I had to learn how to be a husband and a father. And so right now, as a single man, you have to learn how to be a man and then learn how to be a good spouse, a husband. What does it mean to be a good husband? What examples do you have of a healthy relationship, a healthy marriage? I mean, you know, do some training. Just like you go to school to become, to take up a trade, you got to invest some time into reading and learning. So this is your part of reading and learning how to be a man and how to be a husband.
Like for me, one of the examples I use is for me as a pharmacist. I've been a pharmacist for 17 years. I had to go through training and take a test and to get my license. But every year we have to get continuing education credits, meaning I have to constantly study and learn and get more information to stay abreast of what's going on. So the same thing with your marriage, you still need to invest that time and get to know your spouse, because your spouse is constantly growing and evolving. And the same for you. The things that, you know, we thought about and were interested in back, almost 20 years ago are not necessarily the same interests we have now, but we had to learn and grow together. But that means taking our time, doing research, getting resources. You don't get a driver's license without studying or without taking a test or gaining some knowledge. And the same thing in lots of other professions. If you want a promotion on your job, guess what? You're going to have to do some research. You're going to have to put in some extra hours. You're going to have to ask questions. If you want a promotion on your job, and you're going to go to somebody who's been there and you'll say, hey, you know, how did you get there? What information do I need? You're going to do your research so you can strategically position yourself for that promotion, right? The same thing. If you want your marriage to succeed, you need to strategically position yourself. Get the information that you need in order to succeed. If you are, you know, connected with another couple that's doing well in life, that's excelling in life, ask questions. That's so important. Now, a lot of times we want things instantaneously. We don't want to have to work. We don't want to have to put in the extra time. But just think of it like this. And this is one of the examples. Like for my husband, he's into sports, and so is my son. They can watch hours and hours of sports. But what I started learning, when you look at these people that are excelling in athletics, you look at your LeBron James, your Michael Jordan, and who are all these other people, the Cam Newtons and the Michael Vicks and all of. They put an extensive amount of time working overtime such that they can excel in those areas. So if they're going to be willing to commit to those things, how much more should we be committed to our marriage? Is something that we said that we were going to love, honor, cherish, in sickness and in health, for richer and for poorer. You got to take that stuff seriously. It's not until you can't pay the bills anymore. That's not a commitment.
Yes.
Come on, that's a temporary situation. Stop making permanent decisions in temporary situations. Just like your finances can be up and down one moment, it goes down one moment, then guess what? It can go up again.
Yeah.
So that's why it's really, really important. Take the time that you need. Invest in yourself. Invest in your marriage. I mean, and that means finding out, connecting with other married couples. Go to dinner with them. Pick their brains. Trust me, someone that's been through some things in their marriage, they don't mind sharing it. I mean, our life, we're about being transparent, because guess what? We were at that point where we were ready to go our separate ways, where we were ready to just say, you know what, this is too much.
Yes.
But once we got that knowledge, we got connected to others and said, you know what? We're not trying to pretend like this thing is perfect. No, we had to go through some hard times, some challenges, some ups and downs. We connected to people, reached out, said, hey, how do you do this? How are you excelling in this area? I need help. And that's a problem. Some people don't want to, it's pride. You don't want to reach for help. If you value your marriage, get the help. Don't wait until you got a divorce attorney knocking on your door. Yeah, yes, be honest regarding the season that you're in.
Yes.
As much as I desire to remarry, I know that I'm not ready for a mate right now, and this is what it have to be. But the thing is that you have the wisdom to recognize
exactly.
that. Some people just say, okay, I don't want to be by myself, and it's just, okay, well, here's somebody that wants to marry me, and so I'm going to marry them. Knowing good and doggone well,
get help.
They're not the person for you, or you're not ready for that.
Right.
So that's when you use wisdom.
Exactly. That's where you got to go educate yourself and grow. Like she said, find someone that, you know, like I used the example earlier as, you know, what was a good example. Growing up, only thing I knew was the Cosbys, you know, and then now the modern day Cosbys was Blackish with Anthony Anderson and Tracy Ross. You know, when you watch television, that's about all you can see. Go ahead.
Now, one of the things being mindful of, what is your perception of marriage? And if there's someone that you're dating, find out what's their thoughts on marriage. And are you guys on the same page about that? My parents were divorced, I think, since I was 8 years old. My father would speak into me, telling me to run my house. Don't let anybody tell me what to do. Completely out of order, because he didn't have a good marriage to be able to imitate. So we had to start having those conversations. And what I found out, his parents were divorced. My parents were divorced. Guess what? neither one of us had a marriage to be able to emulate. So we had to go to God and then had to reach out to other couples. Hey, they seem to be doing something right. They've been together. What are you doing? Give me some tips and strategies on how to succeed in this. And then you have to be committed to being the change that you want to see in your marriage. It does not say that it's going to be easy. Work means you got to work. That's how they say faith without work is dead.
That's right.
You got to put some actions behind that faith.
Yes.
You know, it's good thing to pray about it, but then also you got to work. Yes. That means sometimes prioritizing, putting things on the side.
Yeah. For those who just joined us, we are talking about single women. Why are they single? Because there's quite a few people that joined, and welcome. I'm glad that you. Yeah. I love the Cosby Show.
Oh yeah, Tony Evans. Yes. Amazing.
Yes. But so we were talking about, it was a discussion over Thanksgiving. We was like, it came up. Why are there so many single women?
Don't you just love the holidays?
Yes. So why are there so many single women looking to be married? Why are there so many single women in the church? They're in the office of the fivefold ministry, highly anointed, but they still single. Then why are there so many single women in corporate America was another option. And then why are there so many single women that have been married and divorced, but divorced not only once, but multiple times? And that was what we were discussing. And so Sakisha and I would just answer some of your questions. So you can actually put the comments on Facebook.